Welcome to Haltech Elite NSP Training Part 73. In this training module, we're going to be exploring using a boost control solenoid to control our blow-off valve that's going to allow a controlled boost leak on a turbocharged or a supercharged engine. And what we can find with this is that we can regulate our power output from our engine very efficiently in a drag race or even for a street car application. We have a lot to talk about here in the setup and configuration. Let's jump in so we can check this out.
Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at setting up and working with our blow-off valve based boost control within our Haltech Elite using our NSP software. Now, we can utilize this blow-off valve based boost control in a supercharged or a turbocharged application. This is a concept that not a lot of people are familiar with, but it works extremely well. And we're going to be applying it in two different manners within a supercharged or turbocharged engine. So let's talk about that real quick here. So when we have a supercharged engine, specifically a centrifugal style supercharger, it might be a Paxton kit, might be a similar style centrifugal supercharger kit you have installed, we'll find that we have a blow-off valve. And the blow-off valve is usually referenced to our intake manifold after the throttle body, and that gets a vacuum or a pressure reference. In the situation where we have our blow-off valve under boost, that blow-off valve is getting a boost pressure reference. When it sees boost pressure reference, that's going to be pushing down on the actual blow-off valve itself and sealing off that potential leak on our charge pipe. So it's shutting off a boost leak. When we come into vacuum, when we lift throttle, we produce vacuum in the intake manifold. The blow-off valve, it's going to open up and release the pressure so we don't have it hitting the throttle plate and then transferring back and hitting the compressor wheel itself, so we don't get boost stutter or flutter. That can damage the supercharger shaft over time in the bearing assemblies. We want to get rid of that. So that's why we have the blow-off valve there. Now we can introduce a boost control solenoid to go between the intake manifold and the blow-off valve. And what that's going to do is, under boost, if we want to dump excess boost pressure, and we don't want to have as much horsepower and torque out of our engine, we can utilize the boost control solenoid to cut off some of the pressure reference or all of the pressure reference under boost, which is going to force that blow-off valve either all the way open on the valve itself or partially open off the seat, and that's going to be reducing how much boost pressure and horsepower and torque we're seeing out of our engine. So on a supercharged engine in this configuration, we are able to effectively have multiple different boost levels. You might put a 20 psi pulley on your supercharger, but in the lower gears, you can only work with maybe 5 or 8 psi. You can only hook that up, your traction limited. You can utilize the blow-off valve based boost control to allow you to get more boost out of your engine in the higher gears, but limit the boost in the lower gears. This is the idea of boost by gear that we would have with a turbocharged engine. In this case, because we have a pulley, a supercharged pulley, that's going to be the base. We can't increase it mechanically. You would have to change the pulley out. And in this case, we can decrease it with the blow-off valve based boost control. So this is an excellent option for those situations. And we'll talk about configuring and setting it up here in the software in just a little bit. Now let's talk about a turbocharged scenario. Normally, we would not be interested in using blow-off valve based boost control for a turbo engine. However, if you have a drag race engine and you're trying to run extremely high boost pressure levels, let's say third and fourth gear, first gear you want to limit your boost to be able to hook up, get traction at the track. Second gear, you want to have usually a progressive ramp and bringing that boost in to try to drop your 330 and 1/8 mile times. Now, what you might find yourself in a situation I find a lot of times with turbo engines, specifically turbo 4-cylinder drag race setups. First gear, you're going to try to run somewhere between, let's say, 15 to 25 psi boost. You can't run 50, 60 pounds of boost in first gear in a front-wheel drive car, typically. In this situation, you're going to have to stage the boost so that you're bringing more boost on as you get into second gear, and then all of it, usually by the top of second, getting into third gear. And that's going to give you the maximum acceleration without going into excessive wheel spin. Now, if you're in the situation where you're trying to run, let's say, and limit yourself to say something like 25 pounds of boost at the top of first, when you click second gear, a lot of times you could probably handle something like 35, 45 psi boost. You're not going to probably handle 50, 60 pounds, but you might handle more than what first gear could give you. You're not going to instantaneously have the boost there. So if you want to accelerate faster in second gear, where your chassis could handle a little bit more power to allow you to accelerate and drop your 330 in a 1/4 mile pass, you can use the blow-off valve based boost control in first gear to open that blow-off valve, allow the boost control solenoids to start to wind up and allow that the wastegate valves to shut and allow that turbocharger to come up on shaft speed, so that if the blow-off valve was closed, you'd build, let's say, 60 pounds of boost, but because it's open, you're only seeing something like 20 or 30 PSI. When you're at the top of first, going into second gear, and you're using the blow-off valve based boost control, you can shut the blow-off valve. The turbine and compressor shaft speed is built up because you've wound them up in first gear. You're dumping the excess pressure out with the blow-off valve. As soon as you click second gear, you can have 50, 60 pounds of boost. Let's assume you're running a kind of boost level, but you can have that boost, that power level available to you immediately in second gear. And if your chassis can handle it, you will accelerate substantially faster in the 330 and 8th mile. And
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.